Hello! Have you got F61 or F62 coming up in the display of your Vaillant boiler? You also may be getting F63, F65 and F67 and a possible F64. All of these faults can be down to a faulty printed circuit board. Now, contrary to what the internet will tell you if you put in those fault codes, it is very unlikely that it's going to be the gas valve or the lead which is faulty. I've been a gas registered engineer for over 30 years and I've only ever changed a couple of gas valves for that F61 or F62 fault. And yet I've changed hundreds of PCBs as printed circuit boards which have gone faulty under the F61 and F62 faults. So in this video, I'm going to show you how you can work out for yourself whether it is the PCB which is at fault. And I'm going to show you those little telltale signs which let me know that the PCB is faulty and needs to be replaced. And you definitely do not want to be changing a PCB unnecessarily because they cost in the region of £200 upwards. And I replaced a PCB in a Vaillant Pro the other day and it cost an eye-watering £291. And of course that doesn't include a call-out fee to find out what's wrong with your boiler and also the fitting and setup of the new PCB. So what can you do if you've got that fault code in your display? Now, I literally just saw a video where a man said all you need to do is to top the pressure up and press the I button. And all of those things are just completely wrong. That is not going to get your boiler working again. If you've got any issues with your pressure, you're going to get an F22 fault, an F73, F74 or F75. And if you want to know about those fault codes, then I made other videos all about those and you can find those down in the description, along with lots of other videos to help you with your Vaillant boilers and your central heating system. So do check those videos out. Now this gentleman also pressed the I button. That's the information button. It's just going to tell you what the boiler is doing right now. But he did also press the reset button, and that's the button that we need to press to reset the boiler and get it working again. Pressing any other button on the display or turning the boiler on or off from the mains is not going to work. You have to press that reset button. And on some of the newer boilers, you have to press and hold the button for 5 seconds for the boiler to reset. So just be aware of that. Now, hopefully your boiler is back up and running again, and it may be weeks before the boiler trips out again. That's if it trips out at all. But if it does, what I tend to find is these faults start coming more and more readily until the circuit board fails altogether. And then it doesn't matter how many times you press the reset button, it's just dead. You can't do anything with it, and the circuit board needs to be replaced. Now, is it safe to keep pressing the reset button? Yes, it's okay to press the reset button, but if you're pressing it all the time, then that's obviously not ideal. It is a safety device warning you that there is a fault on your boiler, and you need to get it looked at. Right, I think that's enough about that. Let's get on with showing you how you can identify if you have a faulty PCB. So your Vaillant boiler is showing F62, or maybe it's showing F61 in the display. If we take a look in the Vaillant service manual and then we look at the F60 faults, you can see that F61, 2, 3, 5 and 7 all say that the PCB is a possible fault. And with F64 still being an electrical fault. The F61 and F62 are the two most common faults which come up for a faulty PCB. Now both these faults could also be the gas valve. So here's a couple of things which I readily look out for to try and help me determine if it is the PCB which is faulty. So the first thing that I look out for is the display lit up permanently blue? Normally the display light is off, and then when you press a button, the display will light up, showing the display more clearly. So if your display is permanently lit up blue, then it's a good sign that the circuit board is not working correctly. Another very common thing which I'll see is the numbers jumping. They change from say 60 degrees down to 45 and then jump back again. Or maybe they jump to the pressure sensor. Either way, the numbers should stay fixed on the display and change slowly as the boiler operates. But if they're jumping around, then that's a clear sign that the circuit board is not working correctly. And you can see on this Vaillant combination boiler, the radiator symbol is lit up, showing you that the heating is on. The pump symbol is lit up, showing that the pump is running. and the gas valve is now on and the boiler is operating. But you can see that the temperature numbers are jumping around from 56 to 61, and now they jump into the pressure sensor, which obviously it should not be doing. So this PCB is definitely faulty, and if I go into the history by pressing the minus button and the I button at the same time, it gives me the list of the last 10 faults. We can see that the first fault is F61. If I press the plus button, we can see fault number 2 is F62, 3 is F62, 4 is F61, 5 is F61, 6, 7, 8 and 9 are all F61 faults. So this PCB is quite clearly faulty and needs to be replaced. Now, like I said, Vaillant boilers have a history in them, so it'll show you the last 10 faults that the boiler has had. To access the boiler history is quite straightforward. We press the minus button and the I button at the same time. We can then use the plus or the minus button to scroll through those faults and see what faults have been coming up on the boiler. You have to wait for the number of the fault to show, and then press a button to move on to the next fault. Now again, on this boiler, you can see that the numbers are jumping around. Although nothing is happening on the boiler, the temperature keeps changing to the pressure, which it shouldn't do. If I access the history, you can see that the first fault is F22, that's just low water pressure, but the second fault is F62, and the next couple of faults are F61s. And also, the display is not lighting up blue when I press the buttons, which obviously it normally does. So again, another faulty PCB. Now this boiler was a little bit more tricky. It was tripping out with an F28 and an F29 fault when the hot water was used. Now F28 and F29 is normally an ignition fault. So for some reason, the boiler's not staying lit or it's not lighting up. But there didn't seem to be anything wrong with ignition. So I carry a test PCB, so I put that one in, left it for a couple of days, and then that sorted the problem out. So I knew that was a circuit board that was faulty. So I came back and replaced the circuit board, and the boiler's been working absolutely fine ever since. So what I'm saying here is working out whether it's a PCB that's faulty can be quite tricky sometimes. And with these circuit boards costing between £200 and £300, you don't want to be changing a PCB unnecessarily. Now, a little clue which this boiler gave me that the PCB was faulty was if I put the boiler into chimney sweep mode, this will put the boiler into its full power on the central heating. But you can see the tap symbol appears before it switches to the radiator symbol, indicating that a hot water tap is turned on, but there aren't any taps turned on at all. So why is that symbol coming up in the display? And when I cancel chimney sweep mode, you can see the tap symbol flashes briefly. Again, that shouldn't happen. To me, that indicates that this PCB is not working correctly. So now I've installed a new PCB in the boiler. All I've got to do now is to remove this yellow plug from the old circuit board and plug it into the new circuit board. If I forget to do this, the boiler will not operate. It's like a little data plug. It tells the new circuit board information about the boiler. Now, when a new circuit board is fitted into a Vaillant boiler, it doesn't just work straight away. There's a little bit of setup that has to be done to make sure that the circuit board knows what boiler it is fitted into. The new PCB comes with instructions and those setup codes which are needed to tell the circuit board what boiler it is fitted into. I also need to know exactly which boiler I'm working on, and on the bottom of the boiler there's a label telling me all the information about this boiler. That's called a data badge. I've now confirmed the correct code for this boiler. It's 06. I can now enter that into the boiler. In this case, it's already correct. So there's no more setting up needed. Now the boiler's all working correctly. And you can see now if I put it into that chimney sweep mode, it just goes straight to central heating. That hot water tap symbol doesn't come up in the display. And if I cancel it, it also does not appear in the display. Obviously, if I turn the hot water tap on, the tap symbol appears in the display and the boiler fires up like it should do. And I turn the water off and the symbol goes away. And there we go, this boiler's been running for many years now without any problems at all. Now here's another Vaillant EcoTec Plus 831, and again it's got that faulty PCB. I thought I'd just show you a couple of other things which I do when I replace the PCB. Now just a quick disclaimer, this is not a tutorial video showing you how to replace your PCB. This work must be carried out by a gas registered engineer, because there's setup and testing which should be carried out. But hopefully this video will let you identify that your PCB is at fault. You can then relay that information to your gas engineer. He can then bring a PCB with him, and then hopefully you won't have any call-out charge. It'll just be a fitting charge of the new PCB. So hopefully this video will save you a few pounds and give you a better understanding of your Vaillant boiler. Let's just take a quick look at the fault history. There we go, first fault F62, second fault F62, 3, 4, 5 and 6 are all F62s. And the blue backlight on the display is permanently on. So the first thing I'm going to do is switch off the power to the boiler. I can see the display goes off, so I now have switched the correct switch, and then I remove the fuse. I then loosen the screw to remove the front cover, push in the 2 clips, and I can then lift the cover off. Fold the control panel down to get access to the PCB. I can then unclip the 6 clips and remove the cover and get full access to the circuit board. Undo the electrical screws, remove the electrical plugs, unclip the PCB, and then I can lift it out. When I refit the new PCB, I've got to be really careful with these 2 little shafts for the hot water and central heating. Also these pins here for the timer and the control panel on the front of the boiler. Now here's the new circuit board for this boiler. The box is sealed, so I know it's a new PCB, and also when I remove the PCB from the box, it comes in a static proof bag which again has a security seal label sealing it closed. It's worth knowing if you buy a PCB and then you want to return it for whatever reason, you will be unable to return the PCB if the box has been opened, because it's impossible to tell whether it's an old PCB, a new one, or if it's been damaged that you're trying to return. When I'm removing the circuit board, I try not to touch any of the components. I usually just pick it up as I am here, because static electricity can damage circuit boards, and I'll always ground myself first by holding the earth plug inside the boiler to remove any static electricity that might be on myself. Before I fit the new PCB, I make sure that both the control dials are in the off position, and then they should be in the correct places to line up the shafts on the circuit board which have a spline on them, so they only fit in one way. Once they're lined up, the PCB will just push down. I've also got to make sure that the pins are lined up here. It's really important to get that right, and then none of the pins are bent and the PCB will push down onto the panel. And I've also got to make sure that the on-off switch is in the correct position. Again, same sort of shaft. It has a spline on it, so it only fits in one position. I removed the link wire because it's not needed on this install. And there we go, I've replaced all the wires and plugs now. Let's take a look at that old PCB and see if we can see any telltale signs of why it might have gone wrong. Well, straight away we can see a brown spot, like a burning spot on the board there. And I've seen that several times in the same place. Obviously those components there, they get quite hot and I guess they go wrong. But you can't tell. That may not be a problem. It might be something else on the board which has actually caused the issue. Now, homeowners quite often ask me, can you get PCBs repaired? Because this circuit board was around about £250. Now, I believe there are companies which will repair circuit boards, but it's not something that I have ever looked into. I hope this is helping you out with your PCBs. I'm going to quickly jump in here and introduce myself. My name is Mark Ballard and I've been a gas registered engineer for over 30 years. The aim of my channel is to help you with your gas boilers and your central heating. If you find this video at all useful, then please give me a little bit of feedback by clicking on the old thumbs up and subscribe. That will help others to find the video, and of course share it with anyone else who may be interested. If you visit my website, I've categorized all my videos and products and parts that I recommend so you can easily find what you're looking looking for. And I'd like to say a really big thank you to everybody who's bought me a cup of coffee and left me a donation in my Toolbox fund. It's really appreciated, and it does really help me to make more videos, which will hopefully help you. Now I'm just going through this setup process as I did on the last boiler by going to the D settings, find D97, then put in the engineering code, and then find D93. I then check or adjust this parameter in D93 so the PCB knows what boiler it is being fitted into. The circuit board does come with instructions, but they're picture instructions. There's no writing anywhere telling you what you have to do. So now I'm scrolling through this book, finding the English parts of the instructions, telling me exactly what code should be in this parameter. So here we are, I'm in GB now, so I just need to check now what number is on the bottom of the boiler here. So let's remove this plastic cover and find the exact number for this boiler. Sometimes there's a label that's been put on the door of the cover. And there we are, that's the number I'm looking for, that VUW. And here it is here, EcoTec Plus VUW GB31635. And the code I'm looking for is 7. Back to the boiler, and I can see that that parameter is already set on 7, so there's no need to make any adjustments. Hold the I button for 5 seconds to lock that setting in. Now that's done, I can continue with the safety checks of this new PCB. Make sure that it's all working correctly. Adjust the central heating to 65 degrees and adjust the hot water to around about 50 degrees. That's the normal settings that I would set the boiler to. Now I'll do some power checks, make sure that the readings from my analyzer are correct. Also do some gas checks, make sure if the gas is off, the boiler switches off correctly. Creating an F28 and F29 fault in the history. And there we go, another Vaillant PCB replaced. Now here's another Vaillant combination boiler. I'm just removing the PCB and let's see what marks are on the back of the PCB. So when I turn it over, you can see again, we've got these same scorch marks in exactly the same position. Again, looks like it's been getting hot there. And it's those same little components again. And finally, I thought I'd show you this Vaillant EcoTec Plus 418. This is a heat-only boiler, so it's not a combination boiler. They have loft tanks and of course a hot water cylinder in the airing cupboard. And this was the boiler that had that really expensive PCB at £291. And once again, you can see that the display is permanently lit up blue. And the display on the front, the numbers are jumping up and down. You can see it's at 47 now. And then it jumps up to 59. And then it jumps back down again to 47. Clear signs that the printed circuit board is faulty. Now for this homeowner, I actually recommended replacing the boiler because the main heat exchanger was very blocked up because the boiler wouldn't run on full power, and I could hear lots of sizzling indicating that. And when I cleaned out the Magna Clean, there was lots of red rust, which is extremely bad for the system and will literally kill the boiler. And this is most likely down to a blocked feed and expansion pipe. And I've literally just covered that blockage, which you may find on these older traditional systems. And you can find that video linked in the description below. Back to this heat only boiler, and you can see that the history is full of F61 faults. Now, unfortunately, this homeowner could not afford to have all that work carried out, so he's just opted for changing the printed circuit board. And again, we can see that scorch mark on this PCB, but like I said, that may not actually be the issue. It might be something else on the board which is actually faulty. So here's the new circuit board, and I just got to drop it into the panel. Again, making sure that the pins and the temperature control shafts all line up correctly. Then it's just a case of plugging in all the leads back into the board. Circuit board's all plugged in and wired up, ready to go. Now the power for this central heating system is just a plug, so plug it back in and switch it on. Just a quick safety note, if you have a central heating system which is just plugged in, then you want to remove the plug. Don't just switch the switch off, because the switch isn't going to be a double pole switch. So although you switch the live off, the neutral and the earth will still be connected. So before you go working on any part of your central heating system, always unplug a 3-pin plug. So there we go, power is back on, and now if we look at the display, you can see it's no longer blue and the numbers aren't jumping around. Check the history and there's the F70 fault. So I need to check the code that goes with this PCB and boiler. So enter the D settings, press in I and plus, scroll to D97, press the I button, put in the engineering code, hold I for 5 seconds, then scroll to D93. Press the I button again to see what code is logged on this PCB. And this number is set to 12, so let's check in the book to see what it should be set to. And there's the EcoTec Plus 418, and it should be set to 12, so that's correct. So I'm just going to press the I button for 5 seconds to lock that in, and we're all good to go. Now I'm just doing a couple of safety checks, making sure that the boiler switches off correctly with the new circuit board in it. So that's F29, ignition goes out whilst the boiler's operating. So let's just check if I get an F28 as well, which I do, so that's all good. And then a flue gas analyzer check to make sure that the flue gases are correct. This was tricky to do because the boiler just would not run at full power. And that's because the flow around the system was way too slow because the main heat exchanger is blocked up. Or maybe the pump's blocked up. Or maybe that feed and expansion pipe I was talking about earlier is blocked up, which is very common on an older system, which would seem likely because that red rust in the MagnaClean. But anyway, the boiler's all working correctly now. I'm going to set the thermostat to 65 degrees. There we go, that's good. Now the one above, we don't touch that. Although it looks like this sets the hot water temperature, unless you have the Vaillant controls, it does absolutely nothing. The display will change, but it won't set the hot water temperature. So we leave that one on 0. So there we go, another PCB changed in a Vaillant boiler. Right, that's about it then. So I hope that's helped you out with your F60 folks. If you want to watch my video on the best ways to set up and use your Vaillant boiler, you can click on the link just there. If you want to know about the F75 fault, you can click on that link just there. And as usual, click on subscribe, give me a thumbs up, share me with anyone who's interested, and a cup of coffee in my toolbox fund is always really appreciated. Bye for now, and I hope to see you in the next video.